Don in London, hello. It's October the 27th. My video is all about recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. My addictive substance, alcohol, didn't do me any good in the end. Although there were good times along the way, I have to admit. Alcoholic in recovery, and also addicted to behaviours as well, around people, places and things. So, alcoholic in recovery, no longer obsessed by the need to drink, and no longer obsessed in terms of attitudes and behaviour. I can change my mind today. I can be influenced by others today. I can have the humility to keep on learning today, hopefully, which means that I'm not set in stone. And when I was a drinker, I guess I was set in stone, dependent quite quickly, I suspect, when I look back, on alcohol to fix my feelings. And if I had my feelings fixed, just have the happy ones, hopefully, and suppress the rest. Push down anger, resentment, expectations too, and feelings of what have I done to deserve this? And the answer was, I was probably not following the path that was open to me had I not started drinking, had other pressures not been around in the world, which shaped the way I responded and reacted to life in general. So, in my early days, I had loving parents, one often absent at the pub or the bar, or out working, a career addict, I guess, or a job addict. Have a job, drink hard, play hard, work hard, all those things. So I had that inside me as well. Plus a mother who cared deeply, was quite different, didn't work hard and play hard, just worked hard at living life and making the best of what was, and is now making the best of what is, approaching her 80th year. Unfortunately, my father died, and he died early because of drink and cigarettes, drinking and smoking, and I followed in those footsteps for many a year. And when he was dying, he gave up drink and cigarettes. And I asked him, why did you give up drinking and smoking when you've only got a few weeks to live? He said, well, I've got nothing to fear anymore. And what I should have realised at the time, that drinking and smoking were part of his coping mechanisms to deal with, I suppose, failure, what he saw in his own eyes as his own failure in life. And he had a very difficult start, and he had a very difficult ending. And in between, there were some very good times which he created for all of us in the family, but there were many times when he just couldn't cope, and he would be falling down drunk. Anyway, I learned how to drink like a man, be the last man standing, or last person standing at the end of an event. It wasn't because I paced myself, it was because I had a very high tolerance all my life to the amount of drink I could take. Interestingly, the inquest into the death of Amy Winehouse said that she had 3.5 to 4 times the amount of alcohol in her system above the driving limit. Now for me that was probably standard, and you know, there's no boasting in that. It's just a horrible fact that if we drink, we'd probably get dependent, and then we become addicted to whatever it is. So the drink then covers up whatever else is going on for us, where we have despair, desolation, or joyous and happy times, which are not really experienced to the full, because we're not really there. We're not there, we're just in a stupor. But we stand up and we say we're alright, and we shout and party, and it's okay. And then we find it's not okay, because we cannot stop doing it. No matter what the reason, no matter what people say to us, no matter what we know inside us, that I wish I wasn't drinking, I wish I could stop, I wish I didn't need to take that drink to fix me, to get a fix. Those are the things that I still remember about my drinking days. And these days, I just don't drink one day at a time. And why? Well, I wish I could say I did it on my own. Still triumphant, full of ego, covering up anything which might have seemed untoward or a failing. a shame or guilt about not knowing something. These days, I find it's better not to know on a daily basis what's going to happen in terms of my reaction and response to life, to be able to deal and cope with what's coming my way, no matter what it might be. I can just do what I can do. So, how do I do it? Well, I don't do it on my own, that's for sure. I needed help in the end. After so many attempts to stop, so many trials and tribulations, so many losses, down to a park bench, and not wanting to talk to anyone, not wishing to be a part of society, family, or anything. It was the best place for me, on my own, isolated, with nothing but despair as a companion and a drink in hand. Well, companion of drink. And then that moment of clarity came back. I cannot do it on my own, no matter what happens. And I'm still alive on this flipping park bench, and I'm not dead yet. Why don't I go to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous? I've been there before, I've been dried out before, it had been suggested that I needed help in order to get me back on track, but it all got too difficult, and I got overwhelmed. I'm human, and once I realised I was really a human being, full of failures and faults, as well as successes and wonderful times, why not go back to AA and have another go? After all, the only person I was hurting was myself. Self-harm. But I had hurt a lot of people along the way too, because they tried to help me and couldn't, because I still felt I could do it through self-will and willpower. So I needed to kick it into touch and say to myself, yeah, I am powerless over alcohol. I can't shape the world the way I want it to be. Maybe if I could just stop drinking and join in again, I'd have a chance of working out what to do with life. And I did. I went back to AA, and it was a horrible time. I don't know if anybody out there has been to AA, tried, come away, started drinking again, and then found the turmoil of life just gets worse and worse and worse. And going back, the toughest times, knowing this is the solution, and having to go through those first few weeks of the utter horror of stopping drinking, the depression, desolation, anger, rage, feeling like you can walk through walls, the rage is so bad, and then starting to calm down slowly, and start looking at what's happening right now. So the Fellowship of AA was there. It was suggested to me by professionals who got me dry, and then I went to some other professionals who turned me into a monstrous, raging lunatic, and I drank on that, and then I had to go back and try again. But the set of people who sent me back into a spin were in a very difficult rehab, not in the sun of a continent far away, not on the south coast of England where it's £1,000 a day or some ridiculous sum. It was a charitable rehab run by a bunch of people who thought they knew better than fellowship, and they spent time undoing people and then wanted more time to put them back together again in a way that they thought was right, imposing rules, laws and regulations on the inmates of the rehab. And the only place I could go at that time for any sort of respite, I went to rehab for respite so I could find out how to be sober, but they turned me into a monstrous raging lunatic. I'm sharing this because it's true. You know, we don't encounter everything that's going to work for us on our way into sobriety, and rehab of the wrong sort was wrong for me, and I did go and have a psychological examination at a hospital which I trusted, with a psychiatrist who I'd never met before but started to trust as we started to speak together. And he said, sometimes rehab doesn't work for people, and the rehab you describe really ought not to be running. Anyway, it shut down not soon after that, for various reasons, and I'm glad it did. So it's not difficult once you know what the answer is. You're going to feel some pain for quite a few days or weeks or months, but it's worth it to get over this horribleness of reliance and addiction to a substance or behaviour. And the conclusion of the Amy Winehouse inquest into her death and what people said afterwards. She gave up drugs but didn't give up alcohol. Well, as far as I know, alcohol does the same as drugs. It's a self-medication to get away from reality and to fix the feelings which we don't like, or to fix the feelings and say we like them. It's a piece of respite and a coping strategy which, taken too far, will lead to addiction. No problem there now. And the only problem is, once we're in the problem of addiction, getting out of it on our own, we can get into it on our own quite easily, thinking that we're doing okay, and well, I just have another one, and we find oblivion, and then coping with life is just about impossible, because we just can't cope. So we keep on drinking, and that's what happened to Amy Winehouse, 27, I think she was. And I was still drinking at 27 and 47. But I look at it now and say to myself, well, I made it through those years. But what I did through those years was probably not only be addicted to alcohol, but addicted to work and relationships, trying to make work right, perfect. I was very successful in making money, various amounts of money, not top-notch money, not the multi-millions, but enough certainly to get by, and also addicted to try and get the perfect relationship with the right girl at the right time, in the right place, with the right things. But I kept on overwhelming and trying to be perfect, and imposing my outlook on other people. So it's no wonder that I was impossible to live with, and I didn't want anybody to live with me, because it interfered with my life, my drinking life and my working life. And I didn't realise these things at the time, but it happened that way. And I was a lonely person who attracted lonely girls, and often I would be sitting on a bar, lonely, sitting to a girl, lonely, and that's how it all happened. And I thought I was having a wonderful time, and it went on and on and on. Different places, different people, different things, different girls. And I'm admitting and accepting that that was me. I wasn't perfect, and I felt there was something lacking in me. I was imperfect. There was something which needed to be repaired, and eventually I'd find out what it was. And the answer came in the end: give up drinking and find out how to live life. And the Fellowship of AA has provided me with the toolkit to keep sober one day at a time. It's not easy to get into sobriety. It's one of the most difficult things that anybody can do, because in the end, at the final knockings of our drinking, or last days, in saloons which will let us in, or home where we can just drink ourselves into oblivion, as did Amy Winehouse, the tip over into oblivion is not so far from death, and it only takes one too many, and we don't recover at all, we just die. And that can happen at any age, with any substance, and also self-harming behaviour, where it's just utterly beyond any chance of getting back. Anyway, AA turned about, I used to call it Alcoholics Anonymous, I used to call it the Last Chance Saloon, because it was full of people on their last chance, not drinking, hopefully, one day at a time. Some of us still drinking, shouting from the back and creating a fuss, and being angry and resentful, and how dare they be so happy at the front of this meeting, of this group of people, happy, joyous and free, smiling as if there was nothing to worry about. And we're all shivering denizens of that mad realm at the back, looking on, thinking, God, there's something wrong with those people, and then going out and drinking some more. That was me. And, I smile at myself, but I pity those times. They were piteous times, definitely, full of self-pity, ego, shame, guilt, anger, resentment, all the reasons why my life was crap. And taking responsibility to get well one day at a time and ask for help was extraordinarily difficult. And AA was very strange, because nobody asked me to do anything. Nobody asked me to... No, they didn't. Nobody asked me to do anything. Nobody imposed their views on me. Nobody told me, you must do this in order to get well. They just suggested, why not try not to drink today? Go to bed without a drink tonight, is where it started. And I thought they were mad. I can do that. But, you know, as soon as I was heading out of a meeting, I was thinking, well, I haven't stopped completely yet. One more go won't do any harm. And that went on for some time. And I was not, well, actually I was the perfect student, because I had to have everything knocked out of me in terms of self-will before I could actually start the journey, saying, okay, in a moment of clarity, I will follow the suggestions of this fellowship program and toolkit to live. But will I have to give up my freedom? And the answer was no. I'll get my freedom back. Freedom to choose who I am and what I can do today. Or rather, freedom not to choose who I am, but freedom to learn who I am and what I can be today. That's a better way of looking at it. So, not controlling. I suddenly started to realise that this program or fellowship said, you are powerless over alcohol, and if you keep on taking drinks, life will stay unmanageable and you will die sooner rather than later. And that's the hard truth. And it will be anguish, horrible and lonely. Even if you are in company, you'll be on your own, because all you want is another drink. So AA helped me get back my life. And imperfectly perfect student, imperfect, resentful, what have I done to deserve this? Through to, I don't deserve anything. I don't really have to, I don't have expectations which are going to cripple me. The only expectation I have is to set expectations to 0 on a daily basis and see what happens next. So if I don't expect anything, everything's a bit of a surprise, and it can be good and it can be bad, depending on what happens. But I'm in the moment, and I'm making choices based on reality, rather than a fantasy of what it ought to be. So I'm going to talk about AA, the preamble here, and October, I'm covering from the Daily Reflections book, this one. 1 page a day. There are 12 steps in the toolkit of AA, 12 timeless steps of action to be well, to be sober, and then see if you can get well as well. And we are in varying degrees of wellness in terms of our emotional and spiritual condition. It's an emotional spiritual program. Helps us sort out our feelings, what they are, and why they are the way they are in the moment of now. So emotional, feelings, spiritual, coping with reality. Everything is spiritual, unlike drinking, where we just try and get the top end of our feelings, the happy ones. Spiritual is all feelings, all the time, real ones, so that we can take action. So we have feelings, we take action, we think about what we can do. And we have to think differently than we did before, and have modified our attitudes from resentfulness, deserving and expectations into it's a new day. There is nothing I deserve, there are no expectations, and all I need to do is see what is and deal with it. See what is today. What is today? So AA preamble, I don't know why I went on like that. I think it's because I'll explain as I go along. Anyway, the AA preamble shared at every meeting and said quickly, and people forget it because they're still thinking about what's going on in my life, and will the chair hurry up so I can share my own experience, strength and hope, because I'm full of it today. So the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. So that's it. We share experience, strength and hope about how to recover from alcoholism, or what's happening in our lives. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking, so there are no rules, laws or regulations. And I wonder, if there were rules, laws and regulations, what would happen? Well, 50 odd years ago they tried to put a rule book together, and then they realised the rules were there were so many rules, laws and regulations coming in from the people suggesting them, that they all blocked anybody being in the fellowship to start with. So it was decided there was only one requirement for coming to AA, a desire to stop drinking. And people forget that. A lot of people say there are rules, laws and regulations in AA. Well, only if they've made them or imposed them. But the fellowship here is not about rules, laws and regulations, otherwise there'll be nobody in it. And I'll be dead, probably. So I'm very pleased that the people who founded the fellowship said no rules, no laws, no regulations. All we have is suggestions. And you can do what you will with them. There are no dues or fees for AA membership, so if you haven't got any money, it's free. But we are self-supporting through our own contributions. So we run our meetings, put some money in the hat if we have any, and just have a prudent reserve, just enough to keep going. So money is never an issue in fellowship. And going on, it says AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. That's the good news. AA is not allied with anything. The bad news is everybody in AA is allied to something and has a cause and a feeling and a belief and an outlook. So you're going to hear all about them. But if they try and impose their outlook on you... Sorry, I was just looking down the corridor. I've put some mouse traps out. I've still got mice. They always say it's the mice which trip us up, not the elephants in the room. Or is it the other way around? I don't know. Can't think straight this morning. So you will meet people in AA who are flushed with success of being sober and nothing else, and share their experience, strength and hope with you ad nauseum, a bit like me. But they do it because they are enthusiastic about being sober and passing the message on. Unfortunately, sometimes when people pass the message on, they say it in a way that you think it's a rule, law or regulation, but it's not. And we ought to know better, but you know, we're just learning, and we make progress, and we're never perfect. And as we go 2 steps forward, we might go 10 steps back, because we hit a I suppose a brick wall somewhere, and we're battered. We don't pick up a drink, but we can be full of resentments, angers, and all the other badness that we can imagine. And then we come to meetings and complain about it, or share about it, in order that not only can we express it and get it out, but if anyone in the room has got a solution, they may try and help us with it. They won't help us financially, but in terms of romance and finance, where things are going wrong, we can normally stretch to a cup of tea and a conversation. But it's not about fixing our material well-being. That will have just happened anyway, because we realise our needs are met daily with a roof over our head, and anything on top of that is a bonus, really. When you look at the world and how it is today, it's a very difficult world, so needs met, wants can be forgotten. But we are full of love, full of ideas, and full of financial complications, romantic complications, because we're human, and we have to live them without drink. Now, isn't that surprising? We may be driven to distraction by our romantic interludes, and driven to distraction by the financial state we may be in, but we don't drink, and we try and work through it as best we can by asking for help and not trying to sort it all out on our own. The worst thing that happens to anybody is the letters keep piling up from the utility companies and the banks, and we don't open them, and then we get into a real old pickle because we just can't face life. And then part of sobriety is dealing with those issues as best we can, opening up and saying, this is my situation and I need to face the consequences of where we are, and that's as best you can do, and then they can help. That's outside fellowship, but at least you're sober to find out how difficult it's going to be for a while. And normally you can get a roof over your head and enough to eat. I've got a larder full of porridge if you get short. And then the primary purpose, our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety, even if it's only the fact that we've got porridge and a cup of tea to offer. And some people offer more because they can. But it's to do with emotional and spiritual well-being, so it's never about money. Nobody can actually give you a pile of money and sort it out. Well, I've not experienced that myself, and don't expect to. The most important thing is if we are well enough to deal with life as it is, deal with life on life's terms, reality, we can make our way according to our abilities to make our way. So it won't make you rich or poor. It may enable you to deal with life whether you are rich or poor. I think that's the way to look at it. And it's not that we don't care. Everybody would like an extra bit of this, that or the other. That sounds a bit, yes. But we work with what we have. And we can always go to meetings, get a cup of tea or coffee, eat the biscuits if we have enough money, and share what's going on for us. If it's misery or it's happiness, we can share it truthfully. And today's daily reflection, October's all about step 10, which is doing spot check inventories. It's about dealing with life on life's terms and wondering, what can I do? If I'm in a bind, in a pickle, what can I do? Simple answer is face up to it. But say, I'm in a pickle and a bind, I need to I need to work out, with help maybe, what to do next. So it's not all about my inner resources these days. It's not only my outlook either, it's the outlook of whatever's got me into a pickle. Normally another person or a situation, place or thing, which isn't really working, or I've done something to upset it all. So the spot check inventory, what's my part in it, own up to it, ask for help. What can I do about this? Feels wrong. See my part in it. What shall we do? Much better than saying, bugger off and mind your own business, which is sometimes things I do. I still do it now when people are, or who I thought ought to know better, and there's me judging them. That's me saying, spot check inventory, Don. Stop judging other people. Just say to yourself, what's the best way forward in this? They have an outlook which is different to mine. I need to walk away with it respectfully. Say, I need to move away, and you're entitled to your outlook. It's just different to mine, and I need to wander on. Well, what do they say in the UK? Say something called jog on. I only heard this recently when it was on one of those TV programs where they were doing an expose, and the person who was found out told them to jog on, which I guess means fuck off politely. Jog on, but I jog on. I say to myself, it's me. I need to bugger off and sort myself out, not to try and make it worse by provoking more anger, resentment, and goodness knows what. We don't need to live in hostility, nor do we need to revel in making somebody else feel bad, because it always comes back on us and upsets us. Or we think we know better. Now, it's not easy, because often we think we know better, and we do, don't we? So anyway, today's daily reflection is about global sharing, which is not so much to do with disturbances, but it is to do with how I feel today, based on what I read out yesterday, and I'll cover that in a minute. The AA daily reflection for today, global sharing. The only thing that matters is that he is an alcoholic who has found a key to sobriety. That's it, has found a key to sobriety. We come in with a desire to stop drinking and then find a key to sobriety. Different keys, different people, but around the 12 steps usually. But you don't have to do them, and still people are very sober and very happy without them. They have another set of principles which are working for them. These legacies of suffering and of recovery are easily passed among alcoholics, one to another. This is our gift from God, or just simply getting into fellowship and finding out what it is to have a good conscience working again. And it's bestowal upon others like us in the one aim that today animates AAs all around the globe. The strength of Alcoholics Anonymous lies in the desire of each member and of each group around the world to share with other alcoholics their suffering and the steps taken to gain and maintain recovery. By keeping a conscious contact with my higher power, I make sure that I always nurture my desire to help other alcoholics, thus ensuring the continuity of the wonderful fraternity of Alcoholics Anonymous. And, you know, fraternity, brotherhood, society, fellowship, those are all words to do with equal sized people, men and women, and very young people and very old people, We're still men and women, but of all ages, backgrounds you can imagine. Society, fraternity, fellowships, it's not an organisation with leaders. And often, because we have had experience of being in an organisation, being leaders, being followers, we take up certain attitudes and postures which would lead you to believe there are leaders in AA, but there aren't. We all take a lead for ourselves. People may have good ideas, good organisational skills, and deploy them from time to time, but when it comes to decision making about the fellowship, it's always by group conscience. It's not one person saying we ought to do it this way, or rather we ought to do it my way. It won't work because people's hackles will go up, and first tradition is unity is everything. So we have to work it out together, how we behave with each other and keep the fellowship on track. So there aren't any leaders in that way, but there are people with good ideas, and if they're good enough they will be adopted fellowship wide, and that takes a bit of time too. My thoughts and feelings today. I feel okay this morning. Daily reflections yesterday reminded me I'm not God, in the sense of I know better than you. Simply equal to everyone, and everyone equal to me. And the reading from this day, last year, my reading, or my reflections, a guy called Dr. Richard Alpert, better known as Ram Dass, often said at the end of his happenings, whatever they were, and of course I may be wrong. So he was always very careful, Ram Dass. He never put himself above you or me. He just said, well, this is where I've got to so far. And of course I might be wrong. And I agree with him, I could be wrong on any given day, and often am. Not wrong, but just not there. Not there in the right understanding of what's going on. And this word ego, somebody else had it on their Facebook page this morning, and they put ego, double G. And I was thinking ego, edging God out. And I put edging God / good out, which would make ego. Yeah, humility is the key to me learning from you today. Because really, anything I say is learned attitude, behaviour and thoughts and feelings, just wrapped up a different way from other people. Hopefully it makes sense. And the purpose of these videos, the steps in action are humility to keep on learning life on a daily basis, knocking out the expectations, knocking out the idea that I do deserve something even though I've worked hard for it. Maybe I didn't get it. I've worked hard for that promotion. Actually I never did, I just got promoted because I worked hard. One seemed to be connected to the other one, but I never knew exactly which direction I was going in. And some jobs were just vaguely open to me, and I took them because it was better than the job I was doing, because it was more of the same. And then I broke down by working myself into distraction with a set of ethics which were not applicable in the industry where I was working. Anyway, that's a long story. Coming back to global sharing, the only thing that matters is that he's an alcoholic who has found the key to sobriety, and the only requirement, which comes from the AA preamble, the only requirement is a desire to stop drinking. What would have happened if there had been rules, laws, regulations in fellowship? And the answer came from asking all the different fellowship groups when the fellowship was quite young, what are your rules, laws and regulations, or things that you think that people need in order to be in the fellowship? And the list was so long that nobody could fit in. So a desire to stop drinking became the only requirement. And if we behave reasonably well in fellowship, nobody's going to tell you to bugger off. And even if you behave badly, someone's going to try and help. Or a number of people will take you for a cup of tea, maybe till you've calmed down and got enough of a thinking capacity just to let everything out in a safe group of people. We do what we can do. It sort of dovetails in with whether we've still got family, whether we are still in community, whether we still have a job or not, whether we still have a vocation or not. It's about working in tandem with real life until real life is just real, and everything you hear in fellowship is real. It might be fantastical, that some of the stories, we have told stories in fellowship, better than TV. better than films. You can watch a film and be completely bored, but if you go to a meeting of AA and your ears are on, you can hear what's going on. It's far more interesting than anything that anybody could ever come up with, which is why whenever people try and portray a meeting of AA, it's false. They only have their own perception of it, and it's only based on looking in. It's usually people who are trying to write the scripts. Probably haven't had experience of AA, probably need it, probably think it looks like this. And they always say it's like Amy Winehouse, and it was battling her condition. The answer is it's not a battle to get over alcohol or overcome it. It's just to say, yes, I am an alcoholic, and if I do these things I'll be sober today. So it's not a battle. You're not trying to overcome something, you're just changing into something else. It's like from a slug type thing into a butterfly. What do you call it? Those little, I can't remember. My biology chip is low today. Anyway, a couple of other things just before I go. From previous years, for years now, I have been in action and practicing the principles of sober spiritual living. I still learn every day, and so far cannot say with any certainty what life is all about. I just get to know more about life, my feelings, my spiritual path on a daily basis. And here's one. Last night, seeing people, feeling a part of fellowship, the meeting before the meeting, getting there early, the meeting itself, good, bad or indifferent it can be, and the meeting after the meeting outside in the cold, all part of real life today, a sense of belonging, a feeling of inclusion and understanding, all equal under the cloudy skies, and today sunshine before the rain. You know, we're obsessed with rain or weather. If you live in the desert, I guess you are obsessed with rain. We're obsessed because we don't have rain. We don't have sun here in London, UK very often. There's more stuff there. So yesterday, we're all equal. We don't behave like we're God. We don't deserve anything. If we have expectations which are unrealistic, we are setting ourselves up for resentments. And if resentments are there, they're tipping us over into anger. Sorry, if we have expectations, they become resentments. Expectations are resentments under construction, is what I was trying to get at. More practical stuff. Equals, no rules, laws, regulations. Those were tried when it came down to a desire to stop drinking. The reason why I emphasise these things, you're going to find meetings which feel very strange, where people have known each other for many years and they've forgotten the preamble. They say it, but it's forgotten, and they start to behave in a way which has grown through time. And you may feel like an alien. I certainly did in many meetings. The good news is there are many meetings, and the good news is you don't have to adopt anybody else's attitude or behaviour. You're working on your own path with 12 steps, timeless principles which put you in the driving seat of your freedom to choose, but it doesn't put you in the driving seat having power over anything. You're just back with the wheel like that. Freedom to choose which direction you go in, which can be quite frightening, because you may choose a direction which is not going to be like the one you thought at the beginning. Your ambitions, probably. Your career, probably. Hopefully not your family commitments or arrangements, depending on where you are in life. You know, life will change. People will accept us back. In some instances, people will not want to know us anymore as a consequence of how we have behaved. And we have to respect that as much as anything. Or we torment ourselves and probably torment them too. We can't do that. We don't have the right to impose our rights on other people, because we don't have those rights. We have the right to get sober, reflect on, deal with the consequences of our lives to date, and then see what we can do today. Live the emotional, that is the feelings you have, and the spiritual, coping with reality, coping with now, and everything is spiritual. The only place where life happens real is now. So that cleric who said, when asked what is spiritual, he said it's the ability to cope with reality. Thank you, that cleric who said that. Most important. And we don't play God, because we're not God. But we have a good conscience, which applies to us, and then how we behave. All good stuff. But it's bloody hard learning. Because when we've worked hard and got nowhere, when we've worked hard and felt deprived, when we've worked hard and everything's gone to pot, when we've worked hard and drunk ourselves stupid on it, when we've worked hard and then could only drink, and that's all we could do. It takes a lot. No wonder many people die early. And the tragedy of Amy Winehouse and what happened to her, it is a tragedy. And I guess if people had really, really, really understood what was going on, and I know she had lots of help, and people loved her, it wasn't enough. There has to be a little spark of, I need to learn life again. But when you're in that place, that utterly sad, desolate place of blackness, it's touch and go for anyone. And you know, I was revived more than once, and I was very lucky. So I'm here sober today and reasonably okay. But I do know just how hard it is, how difficult it is, how mad it is. I mean, how could I imagine I could run through walls? That's the rage that comes with getting sober sometimes. Other people don't experience it, and I'm glad they don't. So it's as we find for ourselves. But the serenity prayer, which helps me in any moment when things may go right or wrong, and they do go right and wrong, or there is no right and wrong. Life is just difficult, and if I accept that life is difficult, maybe I can just cope with help and support wherever I need it. Asking is the key. The serenity prayer to God or in good conscience, what I can do, what I can't do, and learning the wisdom every day. God, or in good conscience, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. For me is just for today.